Good evening, St. Louis, and welcome into Chaifetz Arena. I'm Matthew Rocchio, joined for the first half of this postgame by Brendan Schaefer, who was here in the stands watching this one, and he got treated with an absolutely insane game. The Billikens are down early and often, a 10-0 run, the fourth time this entire season that his team has pulled off a 10-0 run against them. It happens to open the game. Billikens are down still close to 10 at halftime, and yet you look at the scoreboard at the end, it's a 13-point win, just absolutely massive for the Billikens.
It seemed like in the first half you were waiting for the run to come. You knew it was coming. If you watched basketball this year, you knew it was on the way. But it seemed like every time that SLU would get a big bucket to get the building energized, they couldn't get the following stop. That was the story of the first half. Second half, once you got that stop, it seemed like you couldn't stop them. They got that long, prolonged run to be able to tie the game. They struggled to take the lead, a couple of missed free throws, but once they broke through, it seemed like the dam broke and they were able to take control of this game.
This will be the first of multiple times. So we'll be joined by Bob Ramsey for a little bit at the end of this show. This will be the first time we talk about a 24-6 run. The Billikens are down 55-49. It seemed like there was a 6-point cap on the game for a lot of the early second half. They're down 55-49 with 13:02 left. Just over 7 minutes later, and they're up by 10, 73-63 after an Avila and one. And the big reason why they were able to make that jump is because they closed the gap and they tied things up because of an incredible run by Kellen Thames. Now, Kellen Thames, obviously a difference maker the first few conference games of the season. He's been really quiet the last couple games, but he was incredible tonight.
Yeah, it really took him a little bit to get going, but you felt like he was primed to take over this game. And ultimately he did. It was the factor of being able to get it going on the offensive end. Then SLU starts poking the ball away. You get those transition points. Defensively, they were able to kind of open it up a little bit in the second half. You look shocked by something. What did you just see?
I mean, he does it all the time, but he's been struggling so much lately. To see that Kellen Thames finish 7 of 8 from the field is absolutely insane. He chips in he's got 4 rebounds as well. He has 3 turnovers, 5 steals. Good Lord.
That's what it was. The defense. It was the ability to take over the game defensively in the second half. You needed that 7-8-0 run. I don't know ultimately what the stats showed, but again, in the first half, they were getting close. They were knocking on the door, but then, there'd be a foul call. There'd be a turnover, and VCU would hit a 3. VCU, I don't know what their final shooting percentage from deep was, Rock, but in the first half, they were basically making everything.
They went 1 of 14 in the second half.
And you felt like that had to level out. And it did. Eventually it did. You had faith that it would, but that's really the story of this game. Is in the first half, they were hitting their deep shots. SLU really was quiet from deep in the beginning of this game. I don't know where they ended up. But the second half, once SLU had that run, VCU started breaking everything. They broke them. Obviously, in what we saw toward the end of the game, there was a little bit of emotion involved in that when it came to VCU and how they felt about this one. Look, they were, if you ask Joe Lenardi, just on the outside looking in of an at-large bid coming into today. I don't think you can probably say that anymore. They're probably out of the bubble. I mean, with this loss.
Undoubtedly, 7 of 12 from deep is a huge factor in the second half. The little stat I tweeted out, the Billikens went 6 from 20 at VCU. From deep. They went 7 for 12 in the second half tonight against VCU. That's going to be a big thing. But here's the thing, that run that changed everything for the Billikens only had 2 3-pointers in it. Okay, and it's 2 Charlotte threes. He starts one and he gets one in the middle. But here's how the Billikens score. Again, they take it from 55-49 down to up 73-63. This is how they score. 3-pointer from Sharma. Then they get Thames gets 2 2-pointers in a row. Thames gets another 2-pointer off a steal. Amari and Robbie Avila get to the rack and score layups. Sharma hits the 3. Another layup off a steal from Kellen Thames. And then another Avila layup and one. Only 2 threes. They were crashing the rim. And unlike the first half, when VCU was getting away with playing physical, the Billikens were actually putting up shots. They were getting some foul calls. They were hitting some of those and ones. And that really ended up being the big difference in that run.
Yeah, it was just finally doing it on both ends. It seemed like there were fits and starts in the first half where you felt like we've seen SLU play all year. You know that they're about to get into their game, and for a variety of reasons, they weren't really able to do so. The fact that that run, which sort of culminated around 8 minutes to go in the second half, that could have happened at any point in the game. and it would have been the story of the game.
Yes.
The fact that it happens in the second half, that you had to go through a little bit of that adversity, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for this SLU team that at this point knows it's going to the NCAA tournament. Like, had you gotten blown out at home, there would have been some chatter nationally about a 2-loss week. You lose to Rhode Island on the road. The fact that they're able to come back and not only win this, win it convincingly, blow out the point spread, I think is a really good mark in their favor. When the nation was watching on ESPN too, I do think that matters when it comes to a mid-major type of program where really the A-10 doesn't get enough credit. You get an opportunity on a Friday night on ESPNU, and as long as people stayed tuned for the 40 minutes, they saw everything they needed to out of the SLU team.
Absolutely, they will. We're, of course, here live on the Billikens Central Postgame, brought to you by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook and Home Bank. Tell you a little bit about Home Bank, and we'll pick our money moment of the game. But you guys are in the chat. You're being loyal. We want to read those. Corey Land, it wasn't pretty, but we are back. Glad nothing too major happened at the end. On to the next. Go Billikens. We do have to talk about that because that the run's going to be the storyline of the game. But the thing that's actually, I think, going to get talked about by a lot of people is what happens at the end. You have a harmless steal as the game's ending by VCU. Billikens don't really like that. Robbie Avila bumps the player into the scores or into the broadcast table.
It's a hard foul.
Then a pretty hard foul. He deserved that one. But then what happens, though, is a VCU player runs up and two-hand shoves Trey Green. Quentin Jones gets involved. He gets ejected. Bench is clear. Both benches get clearly ejected. You cannot do that.
VCU finishes the game with 4 guys.
Yes.
Technically, that's all they had left.
Yes, Hugh got ejected. Robbie got fouled. They hit some free throws at the end. Amari McCaffrey, by the way, had a rough game, 1 for 6 from the charity strike. He also was in foul trouble.
Yep.
All 5 of his fouls came in the second half, by the way, 0 in the first half. He went 1 from 6 for the charity strike. You can't see it right now because on the camera pointed that way. Amari McCaffrey down the other end right now. Free throws.
Yeah.
While his coach is still doing the radio post game, he's still got to do the writers post game, but he's already working on those free throws. John Myers says, "All right, that's it. I'm all in. Let's go Billikens." Yeah, that pretty much seals the A-10 regular season for them. That's a big thing. They got to take care of business. They still got to take care of Dayton. Obviously, they have to be loyal at Chicago and getting a win away at George Mason. Although it's not a Q1 anymore, it is down to a Q2. That's going to be huge, and doing something in the A-10 tournament will matter.
Because we're talking about seeding, I think at this point,
Can they get a 6?
is that the key?
I think that's the big question.
Would there be a case to be made that a 7 playing just down the street would maybe be preferential compared to a 6, though? Because Illinois is probably going to be looking at a St. Louis.
That's fair.
Not a regional site, but a first-round site. And St. Louis could match up as the 7 in that little pot, and I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world.
No, and if I had to pick one of the top 2 seeds, and if we're just going off what the mock committee did yesterday, Matt Norlander was part of that. He was sitting down here on the baseline watching the Billikens.
I'm in the spot.
If you go off their kind of top 8, the Illini aren't the worst one for the Billikens to pull because while I really do have a lot of respect for the starting lineup, obviously Logler, Stojakovic, the Mitrovic, the Ivicic brothers, all those guys, Boswell as well. They're an incredible team, but I do think that only having like 2 players who are smaller might make it tricky for Illinois to run around all these DHOs, all this off-ball stuff, all this perimeter stuff. It might make it a little hard for the Illini to run around. It's not an ideal match, but if we're talking about a 2 match,
We're also talking about the under 32. Let's walk before we run. But this is a SLU team that I think is capable. And we can be honest about the fact that they didn't play their best game tonight. I mean, they needed that come from behind to be able to get into the position that they were in. I think it's very impressive that they win by 13 despite really not having a cohesive first half, I would say. And, you look up, and I was texting you during the game, Robbie, I think, had 2 points. It was a few minutes into the second half. If this is your first game ever watching SLU, it's like, well, what is that big white kid out there doing? Like, he's not really contributing. We know what he's capable of doing. He sort of had to pick his spots, and ultimately, I think a few of his big buckets, whether the 3, the and 1, were able to be the thing that swung the game. His second, how many threes did he hit tonight?
He hit 2 or 4 in the second half.
The second 3 that he made, I was in the upper deck. For the win.
Yeah.
Because I felt like if that falls, that was where VCU was going to crumble and they weren't going to be able to come back. So Robbie didn't have a complete game, but he had it when it mattered in the second half.
Absolutely. And you know what? That 3-pointer that he hit, might be a very good candidate for our home bank money moment of the game. I want to tell you guys about our good friends at Home Bank. They bring you this Billikens Central postgame from business lending, everyday banking. Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Now we are over a year of doing this whole thing. Business isn't just about numbers; it's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. They are the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank member FDIC, more than a bank. They're your business banking partner. They bring us our money moment of the game. I can go with one of the Charlotte threes inside of that crazy run.
What about a steal by Thames, though? There was a moment where
that's right here,
and I don't know what score that created.
It went from Billikens at 5, 64, 59. Thames picks it off. And right after the Charlotte second three, he picks it off, takes it, lays it up easy.
If you're looking for 30 seconds of gameplay, that's probably where it went from, hey, you're up a couple, but this is going to go down to the wire, to the route is on.
And that's what they never look back. To your point, the three you're talking about with Robbie, I thought was so perfect because it came from ball movement, and what was not happening in the first half. Why was the Billikens struggling in that first half offensively? The ball was sticking, the weak side wasn't moving, no one was getting open. All those three-pointers they took, they went 3 of 13 in the first half, and the three they hit were the three open ones they created. The other 10 were really, they were guarded very closely by VCU. They were taking it coming off the screen without any real opening. That three, to your point, was kind of a broken play, but nonetheless, the Billikens kind of balls in the air in the paint. They come down with it, kick it to the corner, and then it comes around the hole. Robbie's wide open. When the ball moves, when the Billikens move, and the ball moves with them,
the last guy that touches it is the guy that should be having the ball in his hands. So they were in that moment, and that's where you felt like that's a dagger. There were a few dagger moments, but that one was curtains once he hit that three.
Big point here from Eggplant Emoji. The fact that Coach Shirts can have a short turnaround and get the squad back in the form, I think almost seals the deal on his departure. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Go do yourself a favor. Go back on YouTube here on STL Sports Central and go back to today's episode of the Brandon Carroll Show. We were live from the PSTL just across the street from Chaifetz. We had Chris May on. You tell me, you look me in the eyes as an athletic director who's worried about losing his head coach. I'm not saying he doesn't know that it could happen. I'm not saying if Michigan State doesn't come open that isn't something that you should be obviously worried about. But again, go listen to that interview. Listen to when we asked Josh Shirts about the extension that they're working on. Listen to him talk about the coaching staff. That is not an AD who is worried right now about losing his coach. To that point, they had a dinner in Chicago after the Loyola game. To his points, they're already seeing checks come in from that conversation and the confidence that was given to certain people after the Loyola game. Checks are already coming in.
Hey, look, I spent a couple months ago, I spent a lot of time sweating whether Missouri's football coach would stay or go. I think SLU recognizes what it has right now. It took a minute. My buddy that I was here with tonight, we were talking about, it's been a little bit since SLU has really had this type of momentum. And he goes, well, Majerus. I said, well, early Jim Cruz, but kind of Majerus is right. But you'd probably be able to check me the date, the year on that. It's been a while.
13, 14.
It was, I was working at a pizza place, watching on the back room when SLU was playing meaningful basketball, right? I was in high school or shortly after I graduated high school. Now we're looking at this going, all right, very clearly they've got the offensive mind that has quickly transformed this place. And I mean, this place, it's inarguable. It deserves what it has tonight. I think SLU and the people that support SLU understand what this moment means and the fact that it can be prolonged with a little bit of work on the front end. And I think they're going to do that. I don't think he's going anywhere. Yeah. And the way that he has talked about this place, obviously things can happen. There are certain jobs where the moment that announcement comes that such and such comes open, you're going to go, your heart's going to sink into your chest a little bit. But I think short of that, you're in a really good spot to be able to kind of write that blank check a little bit, say, we know, everybody knows, but this can be special. Let's make it special for more than just what it is right now. And I really do believe they're going to make that happen.
Everyone says Gonzaga, the Midwest. I like to think metropolitan Creighton.
That's a
Creighton, but
little-
actually in the
Yes, exactly.
Good. I'm here for it.
I have to say Metropolitan Creighton, not that, because my girlfriend went to Creighton. Will
That's
yell at me
okay.
if I phrase it
I
like
have
that.
no affiliation.
No,
so.
you're fine. That was not me. Box score, though, very good. Doesn't do his contribution to this game justice. This game should be known as the Thames
He
game.
took it over.
It's definitely the Thames second half, but you do have Thames was part of the group in the first half that did help put the Billikens in a hole because Q, Dion, Mario, and Thames are all just driving head down, just throwing up prayers, thinking they're going to get a whistle. But VCU figured it out like the Patriots in 2001. Hack them until they call it, and that's exactly what VCU.
Where's Randy?
Where's Randy? He would have loved that reference. I was sitting next to him all night, so of course I have it in me right now. They were hacking until they called it, and until the Billikens started lifting their head and making QB decisions at the rim in the second half, VCU was in control. But as soon as the Billikens did what they do best and did what we know they can do, they naturally took control.
But there's an element of this where SLU was almost kind of playing with its boot a little bit in the first. Down 9, down 12, it never felt like this was going to get out of hand.
They always keep it close.
I mean, my intention is to be at Enterprise Center tomorrow for Eric Church. Haven't bought the tickets yet, but when I buy them, it's going to be SLU Live money line that paid for them. I'm just telling you right now because you could tell in that first half. Well, I don't know what it got to because it was about plus 135, plus 140 the last time I hit it. But it was in the second half, and I thought, Rock, it was a 6-point game.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say anything, DraftKings, but I might have caught you napping a little bit there in the second half. And it may have gone beyond that, but I stopped looking. I said,
You literally got it right before the run, I think. Did you literally get it at 55, like 55, 49?
I think it was was that the first time it was 6?
50, no, it had been, I think they made it 6. I think they might have made it 6, 57, 51.
I think right about when they went to the line and he made one of 2.
Okay.
And that's when they maybe made it a 7-point game. And so maybe, if you were watching, I put my phone away. I said, I'm satisfied. I know what I've got here. And the rest of the way, it was gravy. All
I felt good about was the first half. The first half line was 78.5. And I thought the under was pretty easy money. If SLU hits a couple threes, it's actually not easy money. They would have blown it out. But nonetheless,
I did throw $5. DraftKings got me on the $5 that SLU would win the first half because it was plus money when I bet. Like, maybe it didn't happen. But eventually, again, you're looking for that run. It came and kind of came where it wasn't in those final couple of minutes where you would be worried about it. It was in plenty of time to be able to then extend and win the game by double digits. If you had SLU on the spread pregame, which I looked at that number, Rock, I'll be honest, I said, I'm going to wait because I just didn't know how they were going to start tonight. And obviously, if you had it pregame, you had a sweat in the first half, but they ended up finishing and doing it with a plum 13-point win. You can't ask for much more than that.
Be safe. It was a great game. Bob Ramsey is going to come over here and help us finish off this post-game show. Before he does, any final thoughts on what you saw in Chaifetz tonight?
What I saw tonight was everything I could have hoped to have seen. Like, as I was plotting out, I hadn't been to a game this year. I said, this is the one I got to get to. Having been here, and tickets are affordable, get here for Duquesne.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
only a couple tickets left.
Experience this. Because it's a lot of fun, and this team will do right by you. It might take a little bit. Look, I feel like they came out a little not flat, but like they were pressing because they knew they'd lost at Rhode Island, and this was the game of the year in the A10. Many were saying,
and really, this almost decided the A10 regular season championship. Had VCU won, by nature of how the tiebreakers work, the Billikens would have technically been in second place at 12-2, tied with them at 12-2. But they would have had to do a little work.
So they knew they needed this game, but their talent is such that 10 points down, 12 points down, they were never out of it. They cut it to what they needed to at half. They couldn't even close the gap a little bit more. But I think the fact that it didn't stay at 13 or whatever. They trimmed it to single digits. That was really all they needed, and they were on their way after that.
Looks like we got another segment over there, so I'm going to ask this question with you still on, Brendan Schaefer. Have the Billikens peaked already, or are the struggles lately because they're getting the best from each team? I definitely think part of the reason you see a game like against Rhode Island is that Rhode Island that's their Super Bowl. I know it's a cliche thing, but that was the truth. They were playing for everything. That was their season.
That Hinton kid just couldn't.
Oh my God, he couldn't miss.
I'm sure y'all talked about it. But
yes. Oh my God, it was absolutely insane. So yes, I think it is partially you're getting the best from each team. But I think when you see the Billikens, what they can do, taking a 6-point deficit, turning into a 13-point lead, it's hard for me to say that they've peaked already. I think there are still a cleaner version of their game that would give them a better win. I think there's an offensive explosion part of their game that still has a little bit of a ceiling. You know, if you have a game where instead of just one of the shooters going off, they can have 2 or 3, then that's when they beat teams by 30.
VCU was on the bubble coming into tonight.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Lenardi, one of the first 4 teams out. Prior to this game, the last time SLU played a team on VCU's level, gaining at-large consideration was when? Probably not particularly recent.
No,
right?
no.
And so, I'm not trying to back on the A-10 schedule, but I do think it was an adjustment to say, okay, this VCU team is pushing to be tournament caliber on their own merit. And when you face that for the first time in a minute, coming off a game where you lost for the first time in forever, you come into your building knowing it's sold out, knowing that everybody's anticipating this game. You come out and you feel that pressure a little bit. We saw by the end who the better team was, and they were that much better than a team that still very well may end up in March Madness. So I think you have to give a little bit of grace for knowing that the schedule maybe hasn't totally prepared them for this moment, and then they were able to handle it in the end after 40 minutes. I'm not worried.
There you go. Brendan Chaifetz, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, of course, sir. Thank you so much. I always appreciate a little bit of a guest here on the STL Sports Central Billikens Central Postgame. We'll go solo here for just a few minutes. And then eventually Rammer is going to join us here just to close out this show. He's got a wife, he's got a family, he's got a long day that he just went through broadcasting the game. Thank you again, Brendan. That, of course, is Brendan Chaifetz. Check him out on STL Sports Central. If you're not already a member, a subscriber here on STL Sports Central, you get a lot of content from Brendan Chaifetz. He's versatile. He's usually doing a lot of Cardinals stuff, but here he is in Chaifetz Arena doing a little bit of a post game with me tonight, talking about an incredible Billikens win. Again, if you're just joining us now, Billikens take down VCU by a final score, incredibly, of 88-75. It was a VCU lead 42-33 at half. They had hit 8 of 15 threes in that game. They opened up, and I think they made about 5 of their first 7. They went a little bit cold. Billikens were able to take what was like a 13-point deficit, move it up to about 7 or 8. It goes to 9 at the end because of some crazy free throws. I'm sorry, I'm messing with a microphone and probably sound like really bad to all of you. My apologies on how poor that audio probably sounded for the last 60 seconds. And to turn it around the way they did, we already went through the run, but I mean, that run was ridiculous. And, you know, we get to watch it a lot. I'm sure if you watch these post games, you've watched a lot of Billikens games. We're used to seeing this. It was fun. Matt Norlander was here, who's obviously a bracketologist. He was just in Indy yesterday doing the whole mock committee thing. Matt Norlander was sitting right next to me. Ryan Hammer, who we had on the show earlier with Randy Carricker, was sitting there. And to watch them react to their first real Billikens game in person this season, that was special, because this, like, oh my God, it's just not going to stop. It's just going to keep on coming. They have more shots. They have more big time shots in them. This is insane. That mentality that you have when you watch this Billikens team, I think for some people it's hard for it to really settle in at first, but tonight's another game where it was incredible what they were able to do. And that's, I think it felt like we, in the first half, that we were over focusing on how bad they were at the rim. And when you have as bad of a game as at the rim, like they did against Rhode Island, we're going to harp on it. But it really is the run that I talked about with Brendan Chaifetz already that really stands out to me. It's 2 threes, but it's 2 threes to 7 big drives, and that's not even counting. Thames goes to the line. Thames goes to the line. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're talking about 3 other times. Yeah, 3 other times. Excuse me. That they also go to the line. So let's call it 10 shooting chance. Let's call it 10 scoring chances. We'll call it 2 threes, 7 drives for scores. And then 3 more chances at free throws. I mean, that's how you take over a game. You have 13. You have I can't do math. I'm sorry. You have 12 scoring possessions. Only 2 of them are 3-pointers. 7 of them are drives that you're scoring after a first half where you can't get anything going against the rim. That is such a demonstrable example of this Billikens team will hit threes, as again evidenced by 7 of 12, more than they made the entire game against VCU when they played them away. This team will hit threes, but it is about getting into the paint and what that does for this Billikens offense. That's what this team's all about. Sharma 3 starts it, but then the defense, the transition game, and actually making the correct decisions at the rim, that's what finished that game. And again, it's not just your ability to hit the two-pointer at the rim. It's about making decisions. I said it before with B. Chafe. They went 3 of 13 from deep to start that game. I think the 3 that they made were the only open threes they took in that first half. Every other of the 10 that they missed was relatively contested for the most part. VCU played an incredible first half defensively. One part was how they actually ran with people. That was impressive. The second half is, again, what I was making the joke about earlier, comparing them to the 0-1 Patriots, which is they weren't going to get out of that game without trying their damnness to beat the crap out of the Billikens. And if it worked, as it did in the first half, they're walking out of here with a very solid win, a huge win, and potentially a share of the A-10 regular season championship for now. But what happens is, I don't think it was a change necessarily by the officials. I don't think the officials started calling the game very differently. That would have been a big difference, but I don't think the officials started calling the game differently. The Billikens made better decisions. And you saw if they just would have done that against Rhode Island, 3 or 4 possessions, they're winning that game easy. You want a minute? You got a minute for me? Okay, Bob Ramsey's going to join us for a minute. You're the best, sir.
I saw you went national, so didn't think you needed me.
Brendan, of course, the well-known national reporter. Here you are, sir. Well, you can just hold it here. We're only going to be here for a minute or so. It's very timely, yes.
Okay.
It keeps you smaller. Bob Ramsey joins
like
us.
a lozenge.
Of course, first of all, congratulations on STL Sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely incredible.
Thanks.
I mean, you deserve it.
I haven't seen you since then.
Yes, I love that Earl was the one who got to
it made it perfect.
Yeah, was that awesome?
Yeah, it was really, really good. Earl's the best. And
He let us know today you guys didn't really have any plan for the interview part. You just kind of you
Right.
do what you do. What you do. You sat down. And
there
you
was
guys
no
talked.
Q&A. Yeah, that's exactly right. It made it fun for us. I hope it was fun for the audience.
It absolutely was. Obviously, an incredible game. I was just talking about that big 24-6 run. The first half physicality really throws the Billikens off, but as soon as they played their game and actually started, keeping their heads up on drives, things really kind of started rolling their way.
Got to be honest. Billikens were terrible.
Yes.
They were terrible.
Yeah. I couldn't believe how many head down, eye down, just throw up a prayer at the rim decisions that were there in the first half. It was insane.
So how do you go from terrible, maybe not great, but pretty darn good in the same? And it's not like, terrible for a couple of plays, for a full half plus.
I imagine you asked Shirts how they fixed that in half.
Well, hey, you know what he said? He didn't feel as bad as we did.
Okay.
In that they were making shots, and the Billikens were kind of their own worst enemy, but it was kinds of things that they felt like the shots they got were pretty good looks.
Mm-hmm.
But the turnovers and that sloppiness, that had to be cleaned up. He did say at halftime he was very upset about the rebound discrepancy.
Yeah.
And you saw by the end of the game, it was even 42 all.
Yeah, it was -6, but they got destroyed on the offensive boards. My gosh. That was a rough one. The turnovers were bad. They were forcing some, which kind of helped keep it from ever really getting blown out in the first half.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised he didn't. He was okay with the shot selection in the first half, because to me it seemed like the 3 threes they hit were like the only ones they actually really worked to get open, and everything else was Brady or Ish was like, or not Ish because he didn't take a 3-pointer.
Well, maybe you ought to get your own team.
I might have. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I've been waiting to use it on somebody.
Because it just seemed like they were coming around screens and immediately taking the shot, and the VCU player was right in their hip pocket every time.
Right.
Second half though, they're driving, they're kicking, and they're actually finding open
Extra
three-point shooters. Extra pass. I mean, the 3 down there at the other end, it was kind of a chaos play, but then they work it around for Robbie for that last 3-pointer he hits. I mean, when the Billikens move and when the ball moves, nothing can stop them.
People will look at the box score and see Kellen Thames appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
He was so dynamic and so great. Everybody loves him. Well, I wasn't going to, but first thing is, I don't care what it takes. He's got to play 40 minutes. I'm never taking him out of the game. But the other thing is, a guy you'll look at and you'll go, oh, he had a bad game. Brady Dunlap did not have a bad game. He just didn't make shots. But he did everything else, diving and making diving plays, making the extra pass.
Mm-hmm.
Brady was terrific. It was the second half was a really nice team effort.
Yeah, that's a great point on Brady Dunlap because I did get a couple texts from people who are like, "Does he ever hit shots?" I go, "Listen, you got to watch this team more because yes, he'll hit shots and he did have a solid game. The passing, he had a
was
bad
plus
turnover.
19,
plus 19 is
and
incredible.
0 for 5 from the floor.
That's incredible. Especially when you look at, Robbie had a good game. He was just plus 7. So that really shows you how impactful Brady Dunlap is. And he really is one of the most impactful players when you look at on-offs and those kind of things. He's one of the most impactful players for this entire Billikens team. And any other big takeaways from Shirts on Camo X?
I don't think so. I think, one thing he emphasized was how the crowds here make this such a nightmare to play in. And there have been times in the past where that just wasn't true, and you go to other places like Dayton and VCU where that's just automatic. It's part of the deal. And he felt like meaning St. Louis U, is there now with the way the crowd is not just in the seats, but proactive in the game.
The crowd pop sound different to you?
Oh, no, there's no question. Yeah, no question about it.
Absolutely. Well, there's Bob Ramsey. Thank you so much for jumping on here at the end of the Billikens Central Postgame. Thank you so much, sir. Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
You'll see you next week. There he is. That's Bob Ramsey. I'm Anthony Rocky. This has been the Billikens Central Postgame. Billikens win over VCU. Got a good shot at clinching the A10 regular season championship coming up here soon. Billikens over VCU. This has been the Billikens Central Postgame on STL Sports Central. Have a great night, St. Louis.